Krishna Prestaya Hare Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravaki Prasanine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare श्री श्री राधा वृंदावन चंद्र की जाय श्री श्री निताई गौरंग की जाय श्रील प्रभुपाद की जाय okay. So we are going to discuss on 8th chapter today. So 7th chapter we have discussed. Krishna started speaking about himself, knowledge of the absolute. So towards the end of the 7th chapter there were some words used by Krishna in 29th and 30th verse. So Krishna was telling Jara Marana Mokshaya Mamashite Yadantiye Te Brahma Tadvidu Krishnam Adhyatmam Karma Chakilam. Right? So Krishna said, those who are intelligent persons are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death, take refuge in me in devotional service. They're actually Brahman, and because they entirely know everything about transcendental and fruitive activities. So Krishna has used the words Brahman, Adhyatma, Karma. In next verse, 30th verse, he has used Adibhuta, Adidaiva, Adiyagna, Prayana Kala. So like this, some technical words Krishna has used. So Arjuna immediately asks questions in the next chapter. The first 8th chapter begins with Arjuna's questions. Arjuna asks 8 questions actually. So he asks, what is this Brahman? Okay. And what is Adhyatma? And what is Karma? What is Adhibhuta? What is Adidaiva? What is Adiyagna? How is Adiyagna known in the body? Adiyagna katam kotra dehi asmi madhusudana. And at the point of death, how can we know you, Krishna? Right? These are the 8 questions he asks. Right? What is Brahman? So next question, Krishna answers the first 7 questions in the next 2 verses. Verses 3 and 4, he answers the first 7 questions. And the rest of the chapter is the answer to the 8th question. Prayana Kala means how can we know Krishna at the time of death? Right? That is the subject matter of this whole chapter actually. Okay. Now, Krishna answers the question of what is Brahma, or what is Brahma, because this is the word which Krishna used in 7th chapter, 29th verse. The people who are endeavoring for liberation from cycle of birth and death, they engage in Krishna's service. They achieve Brahman. So what is Brahman? Krishna explains. Brahman basically is the indestructible, eternally existing and transcendental living entity. Actually, it is basically spiritual. Anything which is concerned with spiritual existence is called Brahman in Vedic literatures. Specifically, when Arjuna is asking, what is Brahma? Krishna says, Aksharam Paramam Brahma. Aksharam Brahma Paramam. Which means, Aksharam means it is indestructible. It has no destruction. It is ever existing. And it is transcendental living entity. The indestructible transcendental living entity is called Brahman. Right? Basically, Arjuna's question was about Jiva only. Jiva will achieve its original condition of not being destroyed. Right now, because we are taking body after body, we are subject to destruction. Once we achieved our spiritual status, we achieve the status of Sanatana nature, indestructible nature, transcendental nature, right? So that is the understanding. And beyond this Brahman, there is Para-Brahman, which is Supreme Lord, right? Brahman refers to the living entity, whereas Para-Brahman refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? So this is the understanding of what is Brahman. Brahman means indestructible, transcendental living entity. One meaning. There's so many multiple meanings, but in this context, the meaning of Brahman is Aksharam, Paramam, Param. Param means transcendental, Aksharam means indestructible. Okay. And he is different from the body. He is not the body. Aham Brahmasmi, the statement from the Vedic literatures, means that I am not this body, I am not this matter, I am spirit. That's the understanding. Next question is, Arjuna's second question is, what is Adhyatma? So Krishna answers, Swabhavo Adhyatma Muchyate. Swabhava means the eternal nature. Krishna says the eternal nature of the spirit soul. That is the Swabhava. Right now, what has happened with our Swabhava is that we have assumed that I am this body. And we have taken the material consciousness, material Swabhava. And the material Swabhava means I am the body, I can be happy in this body. The mood of sense gratification. As Prabhupada says, the mood of sense gratification and the mood of trying to lord over the matter. Right? Whereas the actual Swabhava of the living entity is mood of servitude to Krishna. That is the Swabhava. Right? So, Brahman means we, the living entity, is indestructible, very eternal, transcendental. Swabhava, our Swabhava is transcendental as servant of Krishna. But right now, we are taken a body and taken Swabhava based on the body. Male body, female body, plant body, animal body. According to the body, you're taking some Swabhava based on the Swabhava basically means the consciousness, the nature, what type of nature you get. So right now, with identifying the body, we are taking the body as me. That's the problem. So our real Swabhava as spirit soul is Jivara Swarupa Nitya Krishna Dasa. Our real Swabhava or Swarupa is eternal servant of Krishna. Then, what is the third question is, what is karma? Krishna answers in the third verse, continuation. Bhuta bhavodbhava karo visargaha karma sangnitaha. So, there are actions pertaining to the development of the material bodies. Basically, when we come to the material world, with the desire to enjoy here, we develop or we are given bodies to enjoy in the material world. So, this is why you are given the bodies, because you wanted to independently enjoy in the material world. You want to act independently and you wanted to enjoy independently. So, this very action from the living entity is leading to the living entity's development of material bodies. And this is called karma. So, fruitive activities or karma basically means the living entity is transmigrating from one body to another. And karma has different connotations. It means that the accumulated activities from your previous past birth, which you are right now experiencing as a reaction, or it also means karma also means as Krishna says here, bhuta bhavodbhava karo. Bhuta bhava udbhava karo means like material bodies, development of material bodies producing different types of bodies in our existence is also called karma. Creation of different material bodies because of our actions. Actions leading to creation of different bodies is also called karma, as per Krishna's definition in this chapter. So fourth question Arjuna asked was, what is Adhibhuta? Adhibhuta, specifically Krishna says, it is referring to what is known as Prakriti. This Prakriti, the material nature, Krishna says, it is constantly changing. It is endlessly mutable. The material world is constantly changing, consisting of material elements. Krishna says, this physical nature, just like in our own body, you see, constantly things are changing. Body is grown, body is when a child is born, it grows, it further becomes adult. It is produces byproducts. It dwindles and vanishes like this constantly. In our present state of existence, also body, physical nature is constantly changing. When the modern day scientists or the doctors say that cells are all constantly born and dying. There's so many cells which have a lifespan of few days to few months. So all the cells in the body are constantly changing. This is how physical nature is. Physical nature is constantly changing. Kshara. Krishna says, Adibhutam Ksharo Bhava. Adibhuta means Prakriti. The material nature is constantly changing. The material world, material body is constantly changing. The configuration constantly changes. Then, fifth question Arjuna asks, it is what is Adidaiva? Adidaiva, basically, Prabhupada explains, Adidaiva means the universal form of the Supreme Lord. Universal form we'll read in the 11th chapter. This includes all the different devatas and all the different planetary systems. Okay. So basically, Adidaiva means the whole universe, the gigantic universal form. Right? So this is the Adidaivam. And the sixth question was, what is Adiyagna? Adiyagna basically refers to the Paramatma. So Krishna says that Adiyagna, Adiyagnoham evatra. Actually, Krishna says, I am that Adiyagna. Which means Krishna has one plenary expansion. Plenary expansion means Krishna's own expansion, having the same power as Krishna, but those powers are all manifested based on the situation. Paramatma is as powerful as Krishna, but he doesn't manifest all the powers of Krishna. Right? That is called plenary expansion. Whereas we are called separated expansion. Swamsha and Vivinnamsha. So, Paramatma, Krishna, he is the enjoyer of all sacrifices. The Supreme Lord represented as the Super Soul. And Super Soul is sitting as witness in our hearts, in individual living entity's heart. And he is the constantly is seeing and watching what all we are doing. And accordingly, he is giving sanction of different aspects in our life. Right? So all this is happening by the arrangement Lord has made in this whole wonderful creation. Right? When the living entity is in the material world, the Lord accompanies the living entity as Paramatma. That's the understanding. So the 6 questions of Arjuna is very nicely answered. And seventh question is, where is this Adiyagna in the body? So Krishna says in the fourth verse towards the end, Dehe Deha Pratam Vara. He is dwelling in the heart of every embodied being. So Lord is sitting as Paramatma in the heart of every living being. Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sannivishta. Later on in the Bhagavad Gita's verse, in 15th chapter, Krishna says, I am sitting as Paramatma in everybody's heart. And I am the one who is inspiring all the living entities to perform yajnas and other actions. So these 7 questions are answered by Krishna in the first 2 verses. Eighth question is a very important question. How can one know Krishna at a time of death? Here, Arjuna doesn't ask this question as, how can you know you at the time of death? For Arjuna, it is as a pure devotee, he wants to know Krishna. Whereas Krishna uh, answers this question in a very broader sense. Because for pure devotees, Krishna is the goal. So how can we know Krishna at the time of death as devotees? Whereas there are different type of transcendentalists, spiritualists, Gyanis, Ashtanga yogis, right? All those different type of transcendentalists discussion is going to happen here. So first and foremost, Krishna gives a general principle. How can one know the supreme absolute truth, who is Krishna, at the time of death? He says, fifth verse, Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram. So it's a very important verse. It says, if you can remember Krishna at the time of death, Antakale cha mameva, whoever at the time of death quits his body, remembering me alone, Krishna says, Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram. Kalevaram means body. When you are quitting your body, you remember me alone, Krishna says, at once attains my nature. Yaprayati madbhavam. Yati nastyatya sam. There is no doubt about it. It's a very simple formula. At the time of death, if you can remember Krishna, that is the perfection for you. If you cannot remember, then it is, which means you have not perfected your life. Bhagavatam says, Ante Narayana Smriti. जीवन के अंत में भगवान नारायण का स्मरण करना है. स्मरण नहीं आएगा तो फिर से जन्म मृत्यु के चक्कर में पड़े रहना है. So the whole purpose of our practice of Krishna consciousness is to remember Krishna at the time of death. The Prabhupada says, remember, स्मरण ही करना है तो कर लेंगे. Prabhupada जी बोलते हैं, remembrance of Krishna is not possible for the impure soul. जो पूरा जीवन भर में इतना पाप कार्य में मग्न है, भगवान का स्मरण थोड़ी आएगा. Not easy, right? So it is important that you practice Krishna consciousness. It's like death is called final examination. If you're not practiced properly, then you will fail exam. So in that way, Prabhupada says, if you can always regularly, systematically chant the holy name of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So then you're practicing to remember Krishna. If you have practiced like this, at least you are saved. Otherwise, there is no hope. Because people simply, want to take a risk and tell, okay, we will remember anyway. I'll remember Krishna at the time of death. Not easy. We'll understand more about this as we move forward. So now, after stating the principle, further he says one more general law. What happens if you don't remember Krishna at the time of death? Yam yam vapi sparan bhavam yatyante kalevaram tam tam eveti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitaha. Krishna says, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. Okay, what is the principle, law of nature working? Law of nature is that Krishna designed a way, especially in human form of life. Whatever consciousness you have at the time of death, next body you'll get accordingly. So, very important principle, right? Prabhupada is quoting this verse often in his teachings. So, basically, what happens at the time of death, critical moment of death, Krishna is explaining here. Our nature, our swabhava changes. If you are thinking about Krishna, the swabhava of material nature will become spiritual nature. If you're thinking of some other material body, you'll get one more material body only, different nature. That's all. Material realm only you will be. Just like when you're thinking about, somebody is thinking about very much about his house, my property. So next life he may become a cockroach or a rat in his house. He's so attached to the house. Like that, whatever you think, whatever you are meditating upon at time of your death, that life next you'll go to get. So, Prabhupada says, the cumulative effect of the thoughts and actions of one's life, cumulative effect of thoughts and actions of one's life, influence one's thought at the moment of death. Very important. Whatever you have thought about, your whatever actions you have done, all that will be going as a, will come as a, reflection, flashback in your consciousness. Therefore, it is important that what actions we do will determine our future life, right? So, Prabhupada says, therefore, chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is the best process to successfully change one state of being to transcendental life. So, that's the recommendation Krishna gives in this chapter. His chapter title is How to Attain the Supreme. How to go back to spiritual world. The only way is to always constantly chant his names. So here, the example is given of one great king by name Bharat Maharaj, who was very advanced in his spiritual understanding, but due to some influence of one deer, a small baby deer, he got attached to that baby deer, and because of which he remembered that baby deer while leaving his body. So next life he became a deer. He was so advanced in devotional service, but because of that mistake, he got a baby deer. Later on, he realized, oh, what a mistake I've done. So in the baby deer's body, he was sitting in the ashram and hearing satsang. Next life, he got the body of one more human called Jada Bharata. And then after that, he got liberation, which means he had to spend 3 lives like this before he got actually liberation. So like this, there's a risk at every point of time. So whatever you think at the time of death is important. Okay, so that's why Krishna concludes that in 7th verse is the conclusion sort of a thing. So you should think of me always. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu maam anusmara yudhyacha. Your background should always have Krishna thought. Why? Because these very thoughts and actions, as Prabhupada says, cumulative thoughts and actions, cumulative effects of thoughts and actions of one's life influence one's thoughts at the moment of death. Because any action you're doing, there's a thought behind it. There's an intention behind it. So, Krishna says, the best thing is that always think of me and act accordingly. Arjuna is telling you, you fight thinking of me always. So in this way, when your activities are dedicated to me, your mind intelligence is fixed on me, then Krishna says you'll attain me without doubt. So this is an important verse, practical verse, telling how as people working with doing so many things, how we can have thought of Krishna. So Arjuna is being told here that you think of me means you should understand that think of me means Krishna saying when you're working for something, you should understand the result I'm going to give to Krishna. That is what thinking of Krishna means. You're cooking not for yourself, cooking for Krishna. Doing any activity for Krishna. Not simply you're doing and not offering result is not good, not proper. You're doing any activity connected to Krishna. Keep Krishna in the center. That is what Krishna wants us to do here. That is what is going to make you always remember Krishna. What for I am doing? It's like we're discussing on the Bhagavad Gita. So we're having Krishna in the center. Krishna's instructions we're trying to understand. So Krishna says, all times you think of me and do your prescribed duty. Right? We'll have so many duties to do as a householder, as a working in some organizations, all these things. So by offering our mind intelligence unto Krishna, you will attain Krishna without doubt, Krishna says. Next, Krishna says, now that another point of, okay, think of you must be easy. We'll always think of you. Krishna says, not easy. It requires practice, right? So, Krishna says that Abhyas Yoga Yuktena Chetasa Nanyagamina Paramam Purusham Divyam Yati Parthanu Chintayan. He gives the formula how to remember him. It is stressed on remembrance of him. That is going to lead you to the path of perfection. That is going to take you out of this material world. But how to remember him is important. Just I'll remember him, no. For that you need to do abhyasa. You're supposed to practice, right? Constantly you have to see that your mind is absorbed in Krishna, because mind goes here and there. So the importance of remembering is being stressed by Krishna in the 8th verse. Abhyas yoga yuktena. He who practices to meditate. How to practice? Chetasa na anyagamina. With undeviated mind and consciousness. Right? Mind will go here and there. Mind will distract you with so many other thoughts. But bring back the mind. Just like Prabhupada says, chanting Hare Krishna. You are practicing, but initially, maybe few beats, you are able to chant and hear. But later on, what happens? Mind goes here and there. So our endeavor should be so that the mind is always fixed on a sound vibration. Chetasa na anya gamina. Undeviated, with undeviated mind and consciousness. Right? On whom? Paramam Purusham Divyam. On the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Krishna says, if you do this, you will attain me. By such constant thinking of me, you'll get me. Yati Partha Anuchintayan. Yati means you'll attain me, you'll get me. Okay. So this is the general principles Krishna is mentioning about. How can one know Krishna at the time of death? In the case of a pure devotee. If you can somehow remember Krishna at the point of death, that is going to really greatly help. And how to get that remembrance? By doing practice, abhyasa. Yoga yuktena, chetasana, nyagamina. Means that abhyasa should be connected to the Krishna's devotion. Not anything you do abhyasa becomes devotion. No. Authorized way of doing devotion. Right? So this way mind will be agitated, mind will be diverting here and there, but you bring back the mind back to Krishna's devotion. The way we are supposed to do is, while chanting, we are supposed to bring back the mind back to Krishna's sound vibration. That will help us to achieve the supreme perfection. Now, Krishna is going to speak about in the next 9th verse, the nice important words. He says, how you can remember Krishna. Right? Okay, you have to do abhyasa. Abhyasa, and what should be the subject matter of thinking? Right? So Krishna says, you think Krishna as Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram, verse 9. You should know that Krishna is Kavim. Kavim means he is all-knowing. One who knows everything. He is omniscient. There are some words used in the Vedic literatures. Prabhupada uses it very nicely. He is Kavim means he knows everything. Omniscient. He is all-powerful means he is omnipotent. So he knows everything. He is Purana. He is the oldest. Anushasitaram. He is controlling everything. 9 different ways Krishna says that you can remember him. As the one who knows everything, as the beginningless or the oldest, and as the supreme controller. Anoraniyam Shaha. 4th point. He is smaller than the smallest. Because Krishna enters as Paramatma within our Atma. Yes, see. This is what Prabhupada says here. Hmm? He is smaller than the smallest. The living entity is 1 by 10,000 part of the tip of the hair. The Lord is so inconceivably small, he enters into the heart of this particle. Which particle? Soul particle. Uh, So, therefore, is called the smallest than the smallest. Smaller than the smallest. So, uh, Anuraniyamsham, Anusmaridyaha. In this way, you have to remember him. Sarvasya dhataram. The fifth point. He is maintaining everything. So many innumerable living entities all over this creation. Who is maintaining them? Krishna only is maintaining them. Right? Every one of us individuals, who is maintaining? Krishna is maintaining by profuse sunlight, by so much of water, air, by food, everything Krishna is only providing by various arrangements. So, Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam. Achintya. There are two words here. Achintya means he is inconceivable. Rupam means he has a form, beautiful form. Right? He is inconceivable. Inconceivable meaning he is beyond our limited conception or perception. Beyond our thinking jurisdiction, Prabhupada says. Beyond our thinking jurisdiction. Beyond our... therefore called inconceivable. Right? Beyond our conception. Achintya. And he is Rupam. Rupam means he has a form. He has a spiritual existence, spiritual form. Aditya Varnam. Aditya Varnam means he is luminous like the sun. So he's very bright. Aditya Varnam. Then Tamasa Parastat. He is transcendental to all the aspects of this material nature. Tamasa Parastat. Para means again transcendental. Transcendental to what? Transcendental to this material world called Tamo Jagat. So in this way you have to meditate Krishna. It is actually Krishna himself is telling how you have to meditate on him. Remember him. As the person who knows everything, as the oldest, as the controller, as the smaller than the smallest, as the maintainer, as inconceivable, as having a wonderful spiritual form, as brilliant, effulgent like a sun, and he's transcendental to this material world, 9 ways, right? So, this is how we can remember Krishna. Now, Krishna says how there are different types of practitioners, different yoga practitioners who have their own different uh, goals in their pursuit of yoga practice, right? How they achieve what is what Krishna explains. Now, specifically, Krishna explains about what is known as Shat Chakra Yoga. There is a discipline which is known as which they say that there are 6 chakras in the body, right? So Krishna is going to briefly describe these things in the next few verses about this Shat Chakra Yoga and the result of the Shat Chakra Yoga, right? So he says that Prayana Kale Manasa Achalena, verse number 10. Time of death, if you can fix your prana, life air, between the 2 eyebrows, then what happens? By the practice of this yoga balena, you developed some spiritual strength. So, Bhruvor Madhye Pranamavesha Samyak. Bhruva means the 2 eyebrows, you fix the life air. And that way, remember Krishna and leave your body. Certainly, you will attain Krishna. Again, is one process, not very practical for this age of Kali. So, specifically, it's an authentic process, right? One of the processes, Shat Chakra Yoga. And further, Krishna says, for practicing this Shat Chakra Yoga, you require some pre-qualifications. First thing is, you're supposed to be Idaksharam Veda Vido Vadanti. You have to be conversant in knowledge of Vedas, Veda Vida. Be very expert in Vedic knowledge. Then, Vitaraga, you're supposed to be free from attachment to the material desires, material things. Yadaksharam Veda Vido Vadanti Vishanti Tayo Vitaraga. Right? And then, thirdly, Krishna says that you have to practice brahmacharya. Yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti. Right? Then tattevadam sangrahena pravakshe. Then yadaksharam means you have to utter omkara. Then you'll attain the supreme perfection. The four requirements Krishna is telling here. Yadaksharam, you have to utter omkara. Then you have to become expert in Vedic knowledge, studying all the Vedas. Thirdly, you have to become free from material desires, give up all material desires, aspirations. And you have to practice brahmacharya, very strict. These are the regulations required. So, if you do this, then Krishna says, you will attain the supreme, you'll attain the liberation in supreme. Krishna says. So, then, the process of this Shat Chakra Yoga system is explained by Krishna. He says, Sarva Dwarani Samyamya Manohriti Nirudhyacha Murti Adhayatma Pranam Asito Yoga Dharana. So what happens? You have to close all your senses. Means senses should not interact with anything in the material world. That is called pratyahara in the Ashtanga Yoga system. There is no, because senses interact with outside objects, it will distract the mind. The senses have to be withdrawn or controlled in a way that all sensual engagements are stopped. So then what happens? Mano hridi niruddhyacha. One has to fix the mind on the heart where Paramatma is sitting. And you have to lift the life air. Life air is up and down going. Is making all your different bodily movements happening. Right? Internally, in a way of, like the blood flow, nervous system, signals, all these things, the pranavayu is doing. So the pranavayu has to be lifted up. It has brought the murti on the top of the head. Right? Somewhere, it's called Brahmarandhra. There it has to be brought. Then, then one has to leave his body, which means not easy and not practical for everybody. There's a hole in our skull, somewhere in this portion, near Shika. It's called Brahmarandhra. So the yogis who practice this yoga system, by yogic practice, they bring up this pranavayu all the way up to the head, top of the head, Brahmarandhra. Then they leave the body at the appropriate time. Krishna will explain all those things in the later verses. So in that way, Krishna says, any yoga practice like this, one is Shatchakra Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga, whatever different processes of yoga one practices. Finally, it has to be that your mind has to be fixed on me. Krishna says again, the principle. Right? So, by uttering Omkara, whatever way, somehow fix your mind on me. Krishna says, Ma Manusmaran, Vyaharan Ma Manusmaran. In this way, if you think of Krishna and quit your body, you will reach the spiritual destination, spiritual planets. So again, the same principle as mentioned in 5th verse. Your mind has to be purified. Your mind mind should not be agitated by any material thoughts. Mind has to be fixed on the supreme always. That is the whole understanding. Right? So Krishna just gave a sample of one of the yoga systems, wherein the Shat Chakra Yoga of lifting the pranavayu gradually up to the Brahmarandhra is being explained. Right? And all this is very not practical for everybody in the Kali Yuga. But Krishna nevertheless mentioned this so that you understand there is a process like that. And finally he says the principle is at the time of death we should always remember Krishna in whatever way you have meditated upon him with regard to as Paramatma, as Brahman or whatever. So whatever you have meditated upon, that destination you're going to get. Right? If if your meditation is on Brahman, then you'll get impersonal Brahman, Nirakara Brahma. Right? And if you are meditating on Paramatma feature, you will get a destination wherein you will be elevated to higher planetary systems. So like this, if you meditate on Krishna, you'll go back to spiritual world. That's the understanding. So, Omkara, Prabhupada explains, Om actually means, oh my God, addressing Krishna in a very impersonal way. Right? So, Om actually refers to Krishna. It is sound vibration, a sound representation of Krishna. An impersonal sound of Krishna is called Om, Prabhupada says. The impersonal sound of Krishna is called Om. But the sound Hare Krishna already has Om in it. Simply, if you chant Hare Krishna mantra, already you are chanting Omkara also. Somebody may say, oh, you're not chanting Omkara. Prabhupada says the impersonal sound of Krishna is Om. And Hare Krishna already has Om in it. Very wonderful revelation. If one simply chants Hare Krishna Maha Mantra every day, he will reach the highest destination. So this is about the practice of yoga, how to remember Krishna at the time of death. Now further Krishna says in pure bhakti actually, how does devotees remember him? They are constantly engaged. Ananya cheta satatam. Yomam smrati nityash. Tasyaham sulabha partha. Tasya yogina. The process defined a few verses before was a very difficult process, not practical for everybody. It's giving assurance to Arjuna, one who is actually remembering me always, without deviation. Ananya nityasaha. Very important. Yes, it is deviated constantly. Satatam nityashaha. Without deviation. Without deviation. And always, anyone who does this, undiverted and always when you do this, Krishna says, then so that's why chanting Hare Krishna means we should endeavor that our attention is on the sound vibration and it is not disturbed and distracted in between. It should not go here and there. Be fully focused on the chanting of the sound vibration. That's the important. It's the most important aspect. So without deviation of the mind to other processes or goals, the devotee always remembers me exclusively, Krishna says. Yomam Swarati Nityashaha. For such a devotee, I am easy to obtain because of his constant engagement in devotional service. Right? What a wonderful revelation Krishna is making. So like this, Krishna says, for such a devotee who is remembering Krishna like this always, what is the result? You will not have any birth, one more birth, because you will attain Krishna. Verse 15, Krishna says, Ma apetya punarjanma. You will attain me and you will not take birth again here. Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. Because this material world is what? It is dukkhalaya. It is full of miseries. And ashashvatam, it is full of temporariness. It's temporary world it is. Temporary world filled with miseries. Right? So, when one attains Krishna, such great souls don't come back to this material world again. They have attained the highest perfection. So, remembering Krishna like this, constantly, undeviatingly, without diverting attention to anybody, anything else, undiverted, undeviating. Then always, when this happens, then Krishna says, such a devotee attains the highest perfection. Paramam gati. Right? Paramam gatana. Okay, what if you go, what happens? For which Krishna is saying that we go to spiritual world, come back to spiritual world, there is no rebirth. Material world, even you go to highest planetary system, Brahmaloka, there also constant rebirth, constant cycle of birth, death cycle is there. Krishna gives understanding here in 16th verse that even you go to Brahmaloka, Brahma Bhuvana Loka, down to the lowest planet, all are places of repeated birth and death. Right? Whereas once you come back to me, Krishna says, you will not take birth again. Very important secret revealed. Any part of this material world is place of misery, is place of repeated birth and death. Whereas Krishna Loka or Vaikuntha Loka is beyond this birth and death. Right? So Krishna is very clearly, categorically describing the advantage of performing devotion or advantage of constantly thinking of him. Ananya Cheta Sadatam Yomam Smrati Nityasha. Right? Undiverted, undeviated. Right? It is the point. So, and then always constantly think of Krishna. Then what happens? Then you will attain the highest perfection. Otherwise, you will be again and again going back to the cycle of birth and death. Now, Krishna gives a very wonderful graphical understanding of what is this material world and what is spiritual world. Material world is a place where there is repeated birth and death. Right? He gives even the topmost living entity in the material world is called Brahma. And Brahma's lifespan, Krishna explains. Brahma's lifespan is that one day of Brahma is called a kalpa, wherein there are 1,000 cycles of 4 yugas. Right? Recently we are writing right now in Kali Yuga. Previous it was Dwapar Yuga, previous to it was Treta Yuga, previous to it was Satya Yuga. So these 4 yugas go in a cyclic manner. Now Kali Yuga is over means Satya Yuga will begin. So like this 1,000 cycles of 4 yugas is one day of Brahma. One day means 12 hours of Brahma from Brahma's point of view. Similarly, 1,000 cycles like this is Brahma's night, 12 hours. So 24 hours of Brahma means it is 2,000 cycles of 4 yugas. Very important calculation. So like this, Brahma lives for 30 days, 1 month, 12 months, year, and like this 100 years. Very huge number of years. Prabhupada gives the estimation. Brahma's life must be, by earthly calculations, is 100 years is equal to 311 trillion and 40 million earth years. Very huge. 311 trillion, 40 million earth years. So by these calculations, the life of Brahma seems to be fantastic and interminable. So eternally. Kabhi uska mrityu nahi hoga. But from the point of view of eternity, it is just a flash, lightning flash. That's the point. So Brahma's life itself, compared to Vishnu's breathing, Vishnu inhales and exhales. When he exhales, Brahma is created, Brahmanda is created. Inhales, everything is again destroyed. So from Vishnu's point of view, it is just one breath for him. But Brahma, it is so huge. And time is very relative for every living entity in the material world. Okay. So here, a description of Brahma's life is being further elaborated. That Brahma's even having such a long lifespan of so many trillions of years, millions of so many ages. Even then, what happens? He has to die one day. Nothing is permanent. Everybody is subjected to death. It is the law of nature. Further, Krishna says, like this, when Brahma's day comes, 18th verse, then living entities come into existence, and Brahma's night comes, everything is destroyed. Day comes, everything comes up. Night comes, everything is destroyed. For Brahma, from Brahma's point of view, which means somebody is running a shop. Daytime is open, night time it closes. So Brahma's way of life is like that. It said, apart from few upper planetary systems, all other planetary systems are submerged in water for 12 hours from Brahma's point of view. Again, morning comes, again they are created, and again the activity begins. But Brahma's lifespan is huge. That's the understanding. Right. So, like this, repeatedly, day night of Brahma is happening. Repeatedly, there's annihilation, again creation, like this going on. Our life is going on. Mhm. When day comes, living beings are active. When night comes, again, helplessly, they're all dissolved. This is what is happening with us. Right. So, Krishna says, this is the nature of the material world. But there is another world known as spiritual world, which is not subject to these changes like this. It is eternal, ever existing. It is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. Right? This matter sometimes comes into being, sometimes it is unmanifested. Whereas spiritual world is eternal, transcendental. It is not like this material world. Right? And it is never to be destroyed, Krishna says. Yasya sarveshu bhuteshu narshyasuna vinashyati. When everything in the material world is destroyed, that part remains as it is, Krishna says. Very wonderful understanding. Right. Further, Krishna gives understanding about his spiritual world. What is spiritual world? Avyaktoksara ityuktas tam ahu paramam gatim yam prapyana nivartante tadham paramam mama. That world of mine is unmanifest to the ordinary person's vision. Right. And it is actually, Krishna says, it is infallible. Infallible means doesn't come under the subjection of, doesn't come under the jurisdiction of this material laws. Material law means any living entity or any body, right? It comes under certain laws, right? So, whereas the spiritual world is beyond any material laws. That's the point. So, Krishna says that supreme abode of mine is not visible to everybody. It is unmanifested. It is infallible. Nobody can defeat the arguments which this particular abode is situated in. And Krishna says it is the supreme destination, Paramam Gatim. And once you go there, you'll not come back. That is my supreme abode. Which means Krishna is hinting out that his supreme abode is at such a place that once you have gone there, you don't want to come back. But why you have come back here is because we have misused our independence of being independently happy rather than Krishna. That is the point. So Krishna is rightly explaining the spiritual world is supreme destination, especially Goloka Vrindavana. And once you go there, you'll not come back. So, but the free will of the living entity, anytime you can return back. That's the point, right? And further, Krishna says, this supreme abode can be attained only by Ananya Bhakti, pure Bhakti. Krishna explains, Purushasya Parapartha, Bhaktya Labhyastvananyaya, unalloyed devotion. Only by unalloyed devotion. Yasyanta sthani bhutani, yena sarvinam datam. So, that supreme abode of mind can be attained only by Ananya Bhakti. Ananya Bhakti means no other thought other than Krishna's service. Anya Abhilachita Sunyam. No other desire other than Krishna's service. So this is the way we are supposed to move forward in our spiritual journey. Krishna, Prabhupada says. So like this, Krishna now goes on to say about there are two types of people, or there are two ways of living the body, right? And different types of transcendentalists, jnanis, yogis, karmis, right? Krishna has mentioned about a specific yoga practice of chakra yoga. How the yogis are taking a lot of endeavor to release themselves from this material world. Now Krishna gives a hint of some Gyanis and Yogis and the ordinary karmis, how they leave the body and what is their destination. Whether they can know him, know you, Krishna, at the time of death, right? How they can know you at the time of death is what Krishna is going to explain now. In verse 23 and 24, the 23, 24, 25, Krishna explains, up to 26, Krishna explains the passage of the soul during what is known as Uttarayana and Dakshinayana. Uttarayana means sun's movement in the northern hemisphere, and Dakshinayana means sun's movement in the southern hemisphere. Right? Just now, it is January 14 marks the beginning of Uttarayana. Sun begins to move in the north. So it becomes very bright, sunny. Whereas when the sun is going down, it is called Dakshinayana. That's how when after maybe July onwards, it will be dark. So Krishna says, the auspicious moment of the day, the light and by fire, basically fire god, that is Agni, or during the day in the Shukla Paksha. Shukla Paksha again means a month is divided into two parts. Shukla Paksha, Krishna Paksha. Waxing moon, waning moon. That Purnima, Amvasya. Right? Purnima means sun, moon gradually from nothing, it becomes full. That's called full moon, Purnima. And full moon becomes no moon. It is called Amvasya. Okay. So that period wherein moon is gradually developing, that is called Shukla Masa. And moon is diminishing, waning moon, it is called Krishna Paksha. Shukla Paksha, Krishna Paksha. So Krishna says, at an auspicious moment in the light and by fire, during the day in Shukla Paksha, in Uttarayana, if a person quits his body, so especially Gyanis, Yogis want to quit like this. So they attain Brahma Jyoti, or liberation, wherein they don't return again. They get the destination of Brahman, means Nirakara Brahman, right? And whereas there are people who live in the Dakshinayana, dark, in Krishna Paksha, some conditions like that, they are mostly karmis who will get heavenly planet, moon planet, but again they have to return. Again, repeated birth and death will take place in their life. So basically, Krishna want to say how there are different transcendentalists want to live body at different times based on their selection of time and selection of so many factors. It determines where he will go. Right? Which means it's not that easy as we think. Really, we say, oh, somebody is dead means, oh, he has gone to Swarga, or he has gone to heavens, or gone to some Krishna Loka. No. From at least this chapter of Bhagavad Gita, we understand attaining Krishna's planet requires practice. That practice should be undeviated. It should be one-pointed. It should be always remembering Krishna. Right? So, like this, there are so many various parameters, conditions, timing, different mood of the person, based on which whatever type of background he has, that type of body he'll get. Whereas with regard to devotee, Prabhupada says, Krishna says in verse number 27, devotees are not bewildered with these various aspects of how to live the body, because they're always fix their mind on Krishna. Prabhupada says, a devotee of Supreme Lord should not worry whether he will depart either by arrangement or accident. It's like nowadays, now Kumbh is happening. In Kumbh, at this auspicious time, you have to take bath. All is okay. To some extent, it is fine. Not that is, main thing is you have to come out of the cycle of birth and death. One who is fixed in Krishna consciousness, chanting Hare Krishna, his concern is not about when and how I leave the body. Anytime anything can happen, it doesn't matter. I'm always remembering Krishna. right? That's how it is. So, when your mind is always absorbed in Krishna consciousness, as Prabhupada says, then time doesn't matter, situation doesn't matter. Anytime I'm ready, anytime I'm always available. That's the point. So, a devotee in that way is not disturbed by these descriptions because he knows that Krishna has assured him, you'll come back to me if you somehow remember me always. That's the assurance devotee has. So very nicely, Krishna is contrasting ordinary person or a yogi, a karmi or whatever it is, and Krishna's devotee. How their level of consciousness is. Yogis endeavor too much to leave their body at a specific time, specific condition, with specific parameters. Whereas devotee is not bothered. Right? It's Shukla Paksha or it is Uttarayana, doesn't matter. Anytime, I am ready. That's how it is. So in that way, Krishna concludes this chapter by telling, whatever we do, either it is study of Vedas, Vedeshu, Yagneshu, performing sacrifices, Tapassu, undergoing austerities, or Dana, giving charity, or any other Punya Phala, right? Punya Phala Padishtam, any other Punya activities, Punya results you may get. All of this can be, the results of all of them is actually is as good as you are simply remembering him. Atyedi tassarvam idam viditva. Simply by knowing Krishna, as described in this chapters, 7th and 8th chapter, properly, the results obtained by studying Vedas, performing austerities, performing yajnas, performing charities. People think, oh, these are all very big things. Krishna says, just by knowing me, all the results of all these things can be obtained. Prabhupada very nicely explains. The beauty of Krishna consciousness, however, is that by one stroke, by engaging in devotional service, one can surpass all rituals of the different orders of life. Otherwise, in Vedic system, you have to go step by step, doing so many things. Whereas the Krishna conscious process Prabhupada has given is so wonderful. Simply practice what Prabhupada has given, that will give you the same result. That's the understanding. Right? That way, this last verse is a summary of 7th and 8th chapters fully. How Krishna gives the ultimate perfection. Krishna says, Yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. Same result you'll get. Oh, I've studied Vedas, I've done a lot of yajnas, a lot of tapasyas. Tapasya, going to Kumbha and taking body tapasya. Right? Dana, I've done a lot of charities, a lot of punya I've attained. For what? Finally, you have to liberate yourself. So same thing can be attained when you know Krishna, when you perform devotion to Krishna. That's what Krishna is telling us here. Right? So anybody on the path of devotional service is getting the same results derived from all the other activities. Right? So this is the conclusion. So very simple chapter, wonderful chapter. So here in this chapter we have understood Arjuna is asking 8 questions and Krishna answers the initial 7 questions in the beginning 2 verses, 3 and 4. And the rest of the chapter is describing about Prayana Kala. How at the time of death, a devotee can know Krishna, a practicing yogi can know Krishna, or different types of jnanis, other types of yoga practitioners, karmis, what will happen to them? Right? If their goal is not Krishna, they'll again come back. If their goal, whatever Krishna or Krishna's any form, if their goal is Krishna or any of the features of Krishna, they'll reach the appropriate destination. That's the understanding. Okay, fine. Any questions?
यस जी जैसे मतलब अंतकाल में जैसे भगवान का ध्यान रखना चाहिए उसमें भी सर्टेन टाइम्स हैव बीन सजेस्टेड कि अगर इस टाइम पे अंतकाल होता है तो इट इज मतलब ग्रेटर आर द चांसेस दैट वी शैल बी लिबरेटेड तो भगवान के दिन में मृत्यु मतलब उस समय कृष्ण पक्ष होगा मतलब दिन होगा या रात होगी वो तो हमारे हाथ में है नहीं अगर हमारी मृत्यु सोते में हुई तो
इसलिए तो बोलते हैं ना इधर रूपा क्लियरली बोलते हैं devotee, it hardly matters whether it is arranged death or accidental death. Prabhupada says, for a pure devotee in Krishna consciousness, there is no fear of returning, whether he leaves body at auspicious or inauspicious moment, by accident or arrangement. Devotee is always constantly absorbed in Krishna's thoughts. Right? For others, it is all a lot of calculation they have to do. Auspicious moment, right? Then this particular time we have to do. For devotee, it doesn't matter because always he is absorbed in Krishna's thoughts. Every moment is auspicious for him. Any moment, any situation is auspicious for him. So there is no such regulation for a devotee. When he will leave the body, what will happen to him? Krishna is assured. Anytime you're always absorbed in Krishna's thoughts, so he'll come back to me. That's the understanding. Okay. Whereas for others who are not following the path of pure devotion, they have to be under so many rules, regulations. For them, right time, auspicious moment, by arrangement at for die, a lot of things. If that doesn't work out, then you have to come back in cycle of birth and death. For a devotee, there is no such fear of returning, Prabhupada says. Whether he leaves the body at an auspicious or inauspicious moment. There is no auspicious, inauspicious for devotee. There is by arrangement or by accident. Sometimes people say, sudden death ho gaya unka, sudden death ho gaya. Accident ho gaya, sudden death ho gaya. So anytime, any moment, devotee's consciousness is what? Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu, seventh verse, is constantly in the remembrance of Krishna, whatever it is. Externally, he may act like any other ordinary person, but his consciousness is always in absorption of Krishna's service, Krishna's glories. So that way, his mind is absorbed in Krishna. So anytime, that's what Krishna is saying. Why, when the death comes, you don't know. It means change of the this body to one more body. So when the Antakala comes to anybody, nobody knows. But devotee is ready anytime. Just like a student is ready for examination anytime. He is so well prepared. Now I'll write it. Devotee in that way.
क्या सोचना होता है मतलब we should think about Krishna, but what about Krishna? कृष्णा की लीलाएं या कृष्णा का नाम जब जैसे हम लोग हरे कृष्णा चैंट करते हैं वो, या फिर उनकी कोई तस्वीर सामने रख के उस पे ध्यान केंद्रित करना चाहिए. मतलब हम कहते हैं कि कृष्णा का ध्यान करो, बट कृष्णा का ध्यान in which sense?
In this sense, in verse number 9 mentioned, Krishna says, you remember me as the one who knows everything, as the one who is the oldest, as the one who is the supreme controller, as the one who is smaller than the smallest, as the one who is maintaining everything, as the one who is inconceivable, as the one who has a spiritual form, as the one who is brightly effulgent. These are all wonderful transcendental qualities of Krishna. See, when you remember Krishna means you can remember Krishna, Krishna's name, Nama, Krishna Rupa, Krishna Leela, Krishna Parikara, it's paraphernalia. Anything connected to Krishna also is Krishna. Krishna Dhama. So it is all they're not compartmentalized. They're all like when you say house means a family with husband, wife, children, relatives. This is it's a one unit it is. So Krishna means Krishna's Nama, Rupa, Leela, Guna, Parikara. Krishna is the same thing Krishna is telling us here. Right? When you remember Krishna means Krishna's everything.
Yes.
Everything comes into your background. When you're practiced of chanting Hare Krishna, Prabhupada says, Hare Krishna chanting karenge. धीरे धीरे हमारा background consciousness where Krishna will reveal all the various aspects of his existence, his Leela, glories of his Nama, us. Because when you see when you remember a person is not remembered as an individual, one entity without any qualities, right? Person means he has guna, qualities. Okay, this person is short-tempered. This person is good person. This person is not so good person. Person is associated with some gunas. Person is associated with qualities. Person is having a name, right? Person is having some activities. So when you remember Krishna means your mind should have been, rather you have practiced yourself to absorb your mind in by hearing Krishna Leela, by chanting Hare Krishna and hearing his Nama, by seeing Krishna, you have trained your eyes and consciousness to have that image of Krishna in your consciousness. It's a you can say holistic approach of Krishna. When you say Krishna, what comes in your consciousness immediately? Right? All the wonderful aspects of Krishna's, his qualities, his mercy, his name. Oh, name is not different from Krishna. His form. Oh, I saw his beautiful form of Krishna in this temple like this. That form, remembrance. So all the various ways, in whatever ways Krishna has told, and all the wonderful qualities Krishna is mentioning here. He is sitting as Paramatma within my soul. So small he is. And he is controlling everything. My whole life aspects he is controlling. He's maintaining me. Even that meditation that he's maintaining me is such a big, it's such a big contemplation it is. Right? How you're not maintaining, you don't know what happens when you eat something. It goes and it is digested and over. You're getting energy. But how it is happening, Krishna explains in 15th chapter later on. He's sitting as fire of digestion. Yataragni. Okay? So in that way, Krishna's, whatever you see is Krishna. Everything is resting on Krishna. Nothing is beyond Krishna's existence. That's the point. So Krishna is everything. Right? And everything is in Krishna. We are also part of Krishna. So this remembrance means remembrance of Krishna in every aspect, in every dimension of life. That's what it means. The simple answer to your question is Krishna's Krishna's presence in every dimension of our life, in every dimension of this existence. That is what remembrance has to come. For that, we have to train our mind. Not that this remembrance is not there, it is forgotten now. By training the mind in the proper way, we can see Krishna, everything. Right? That's the understanding. Okay. Yeah. Anything else?
This is
Okay, only one more chapter is left for your Charanasharya. The
Ji.
next
Yes, Prabhuji.
chapter also, 9th chapter. And after that, be prepared for the Charanasharya test. Okay?
Ji.
Okay, chalo. Fine.
Ji.
Close here.
Ji.
Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.